Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Scribbles with Jonathan. You can check out my website and my work at jonathanrector.com. Feel free to head on over to patreon.com/jonathanrector. There's a whole bunch of goodies on there. This was held privately for current patrons. I reached out to them first, but there are still slots available for those interested. And what it is if you guys remember, when I first started Patreon, I had one-on-one Google Hangouts sessions available, and I took them down because it was getting a little out of hand, and I had some stuff going on, and all that's all that's to say, there's now sessions available. So if you're interested in having a one-on-one conversation about art, you need help with something, if I'm able to do that, coaching with drawing and stuff. I've had a few times where people just come on and they just want to talk to somebody. I've had lots of people come on and they just want to do what we're going to do today, which is a critique show. Or anything like that. By all means, check it out. Head on over to Patreon. There's a whole bunch of other things on there as well if you're interested. And even if you're unable to do so, it would really help me out a lot if you were just able to share this with your other art friends, or on your Facebook, on your Twitter. Anything like that would help. And I greatly do appreciate all the help you guys have been able to do for me. So, today is the first stream of the month, and what we do on the first stream of the month is a critique show. And if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact and you can't make it to the show, and this show is the live Scribble show is every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're unable to make it, feel free to head on over to my site, click contact me, all that good stuff. There's tons of ways to get a hold of me. Send me an email, send me a message, whatever, of something that you need help with, attached with the image, and I'll do my best to get it onto the next episode. So, speaking of that, we're going to tackle the first one, which was sent by email by, was it Jonathan? Is that your name as well, or was it John? Let me just double check here. Jonathan, cool. So we got, or maybe, yeah, your name's Jonathan. Or you go by V in the chat here, which is great. We're going to tackle his question first. He has two, but the first one's a really good one, and if we don't really have much of too many critiques going on today, we will jump into the second question that he had. But I will reach out to the guys and the girls in the chat currently, and I'll bring this up later. If you guys had anything that you would like critiqued, just get it ready. I will reach out to you guys, and just feel free to jam it into the chat there with a link, as well as sort of what you're hoping that you can might be able to help you with. If you don't have that, I am also opening this up to tutorials as well. So if you guys need a little help drawing something, maybe I can help you with that as well. Okay, because they all kind of fall into the same sort of thing there. Rick, you can sell them. Just mention. Okay. Oh, they are. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys telling me all this stuff. We'll see. We'll see how this we'll see how this goes. But thank you for the feedback there. Okay, so the first one here. Let me just actually delete all this stuff. We don't need any of this. Gone. All right, we got a fresh piece of paper. Now I'm going to bring the artwork here, copy, and then I'm going to just read what we had. For whatever reason, this always happens from time to time because of PNGs. We're gonna have this black outline on this character, but just imagine it's not there. Do your best, okay? So this was on DeviantArt that I got this from, and we're just gonna go. This is actually kind of interesting because V did bring up a very good point with this, that we do a lot of like drawing hands and feet and stuff, and this here is actually a lot of ways what I do at my day job, which is concept art. And maybe I can help out in some way. And concept art is very objectional. There are some rules, we'll say, just like in anything, that tend to always work or feel good or look good just by using them. But it is one person's opinion based on many. And the one thing I will point out with concept art that is a little different than just art in general, I find, is that concept art tends to be something that is always worked on by many opinions until it comes up to a final. And usually that final is never as cool as when it starts. It starts getting refined and simplified as more fingers get put into that idea pie. So just take that with a grain of salt. How this relates to you if you're working on your own personal projects, usually what my golden rule is, don't settle on the first design you do. Knock out a bunch of designs, but then walk away from it for a day. Unless there is a deadline where you need it done that day, then this doesn't really apply. But if you kind of got like a few days, spend a day just doing what you can, or how many like an hour that you can designing something, and then come back and then give it a fresh look. Okay, and we're gonna sort of step through very quickly how I go about doing some of that stuff there. So I'm just going to read here what he posted with this image, okay? The damn hair. I penciled that hair in and I thought it looked great during the sketch stage. But no matter how many hours I spent, I could not turn it into lines or replace it with something better. This was a terrible angle to draw hair at. So eventually I just decided to give up. It is a concept after all, and it looks fine enough, I think. I spent at least 1 billion hours drawing this one. I learned a crap ton. First time I attempted using real perspective in my character drawings, looks so much better than without. This character is a design I was working on for a video game I'm considering making. She is a protagonist of a Metroid / Mega Man style shooting game. As of now, because I'm not a programmer, only the fundamental engine of the game exists. So I'm just skimming here. This is where we're getting to the good stuff. One of her gauntlets shoots various energy projectiles from the palm. The other produces slightly different energy abilities, a shield, for example. Her limited armor exists to emphasize her high mobility, and because she is prone to sliding, crouching, and lunging through the air, her unarmored areas are protected by her limbs. One of her most important features, both in terms of character and design, is her obsolete MP3 player, as seen in the fact that she has a specially designed harness for it, and also because it draws color to the eye. Her headphones are built into her headband visor. Apparently, the wires are made of some unbreakable material. I'm not sure exactly what her point is, but she has that space mercenary vibe, flying around, going place to place, doing cool stuff, Okay, so there's some really important parts in there that you did nail in there that have to be done because that's the character, right? Like the MP3 player and stuff like that. So we're going to play on that, but before we do anything, this is actually quite essential, and I hope, I'm not saying you did this or you didn't do this or anything. I'm always going to talk about what I hope people do in the future with this sort of stuff, right? So always have reference of whatever you're using for said idea, right? So I got a couple pictures, or I just took one real quick one here. We got Mega Man, and we're going to have one of Samus. Hopefully these aren't all black backgrounds. She's huge. Okay, and they share something similar here, and I'm hoping you guys can notice really quickly, which is this gun, this blaster sort of thing on her arm, right? So I'm just going to put these over here because we're going to draw another version over on the side here, okay? So we've got these sort of things. The MP3 player is actually quite important, like you said, as well as some other things. So if you notice, we got like a visor. We're talking about space, mobile, and stuff like that. If you look at Samus up here, the first one, she looks very mobile, but she also has that feminine feature with the hips and the arms. Mega Man seems very thick and clunky and very militarian. That's not even word. Basically, an assault sort of droid, right? Even though I know in Mega Man games, he's very versatile. But Samus, she has that look of it, right? One thing I will say that I do dig, I'm not going to critique it here, is that you gave her a very feminine form, which is awesome. You don't see this a lot. My only critique is she doesn't look very mobile or athletic because of her body shape, right? Her body shape is very much like this, right? And it's a very feminine form. It's a very, I don't want to say motherly form or anything. And again, a lot of this stuff that I'm going to say is pretty much objectified. It's not, it's meant to sell an idea when you first look at something. That's the whole point of concept art. It's, for me anyway, it is function, but it's visual. It's very visual. You need to look at something and go, that makes sense, that's something that character would do. And then the function sort of builds off of that. So, I would personally start looking more closer to, unless this is the character, like if I were to put her next to the Samus build we have over here, that's very, like superhero-y kind of build. One of them looks like they could run faster than the other, right? One looks more agile, they can get around and do stuff like that. So I'm going to change her body just based on that, just to give it a little bit more athleticism, because of the way that you describe the character to me sounds a little bit more like she would be that kind of character that would be more nimble, needs to slide, dash, jump. I've played both these games. Metroid and Mega Man, some of my favorite franchises, and they're very twitchy, very reflexy, and stuff like that. So they need to resemble that. I need my character to feel that. And now that I know that it's for a video game, that's even great, or even better, I should say, because now I know how this is going to be done. This is a comic book. She could totally look like this, and you could make it believable. You could make it work. But when I'm playing a character moving left and right, you need to be able to understand that just by looking. So first things first. Again, I don't know if you did this or not. What I've always noticed when doing concept art is silhouettes work so much better than trying to figure out, like, okay, here's a chest and some hips, and maybe I want like Samus in a cool pose like this, and then designing over top of it. Uh, it's not as efficient, we'll say, as just doing blobby sort of shapes, right? So I'm going to look at these characters here. They've got helmets. She doesn't. She's got the visor, the green visor. The colors are a lot of Metro or Samus kind of looking. You went a little darker with it, which is cool. But I'm just going to start scribbling in some shapes here, right? I'm gonna use a lot of what we've already done. We're gonna give her the female hips, more female hips than possibly Samus has. I do like that she has that. And you can see all I'm doing is just gesturing out like a pose here, right? And I do like that you have a lot of things going on here with just the anatomy and stuff like that, where it's very tight, it's very slimming, it's futuristic, right? But the silhouette is the black shape. We need something that defines this character. If we were to do a silhouette for Samus here, right? If I were to just go real simple, nothing here is different. But as soon as we go like this and we add these big shoulder pads on there, now it looks unique. Mega Man's the same sort of thing, right? He's just like a kid's body. Then he's got like these big like Astro Boy sort of things. Do you see how it makes it a little bit more unique there? Whereas right now, unfortunately, even though we got the female body there, which is obviously great, we need some defining features on here, something unique. And what I'll do is I'll just actually put some cables out like this, because I know that I want those cables to be moving, because it's always going to be motion. It's always going to show that's the character. If they're in silhouetted shape, they're always there. The short hair is cool. I'll keep the visor. I'll keep a lot of what you had here. I'm just trying to think here. If she's nimble, doing a lot of sliding. Maybe we can just really play a little bit more on the Mega Man side and give her like some bigger gauntlet sort of stuff, and maybe slim up the waist a little bit just to make the arms look a little bit bigger. And give her the little feet. She's got to be quick and nimble on them. And I'm just going to do 2 of these. I'm not going to do a whole bunch. I would fill up like a page, or maybe like 8 to 10 of these, and just sort of build on them and see how far we could push it. So start with the triangle shapes. Maybe we can give her like really thin legs. I don't want to go too traditional with this stuff. Actually, here, let's erase this. She's nimble. We want her to be able to like have kind of that feeling like she could like just explode into movement at any time. Let's sort of like have her crouch a little bit. A little more of an action pose. She has short hair, which is great, but again, we can still get that motion. I like that idea of the motion we have there. Maybe trying to see here. Maybe we can give her one big gun kind of arm, but it's her hand, and the other one's just more of a similar hand. Give her like knee pads or something. Possibly even we could do like a something flowy. I don't know. I just like that flowy kind of stuff on the characters. Anyway, so we're just gonna go here and keep this here. Maybe I'll just put some scribbles here. We'll figure this out as we get there. See if we need anything there. Okay. So we'll have that next stage here. Just going to select these guys, cut them. And now this is the next stage where you kind of blow up these thumbnails. And now this is where you could draw with white, or in the case of what we're going to be doing, this is where you would draw over top of this sort of stuff, and you sort of like figure these things out, right? So let's give her face here, and this is where you can really start worrying about getting the anatomy down and sort of like the feel of the character here, right? So I like the short hair you had there. Let's keep that. I'm actually going to get rid of her eyes. I'm going to make this visor pretty solid. That's just a thing I'm doing here. I don't, again, know if that's part of the character or not. Uh, One thing to remember here is it's not about, especially with concepts. Concepts, I feel like it took me a while to break out of the, comic books are where I always like things to go, and I always enjoy comic books, and because of that, I've read a lot of people talking about how to go about improving your drawing to make comic books, and they always recommend anatomy books and stuff. But the problem with anatomy books is they always have like a formula for how to draw, right? And it's this kind of shape, then you find your hips, or how to construct the head, and that's all great, but it's not great for concepting, because what happens is with concept art, it's an organic thing. You feel as you go, and it's not about does it anatomically make 100% sense, because as you can see, we're building up, and the more you build up on this stuff, eventually you're going to find the design that you like. The design will come out, and once it comes out, that's when you can go, okay, like, how do I turn this into something that's practical? How do I turn this into something that makes sense? So don't worry about getting stuck in that right away. And I don't care if you do superhero comics that all have spandex on them. The faster you can get out of that and start working kind of like what I'm doing here with this fast, scribbly sort of shape style stuff, the more design choices you have, and no longer do you have to worry about, all right, well, the setup of gotta draw the body, and then I'm going to paint clothes over top. That's gone. That's not the point of concepting. Concepting is not about pretty art. It's about selling an idea, okay? And as long as you know what that idea is or something you're trying to do, that's what you're hoping for. So let's get these cables here coming in from your iPod. You can see I'm bringing it over here. I'm going to bring it over here on her hip. You can even go old school iPod, I don't know. And this hand here, I'm going to keep this hand pretty slick. Here we're going to do like some funky pattern on there. This one's getting pretty bulky. I'm going to pull a little bit more Samus out of this and kind of give like a round shape to this side. Only to the one arm. It might make for a unique sort of silhouette here. And maybe this arm's a little bit more dynamic. It's got some tech going on there, some slick tech. I kind of have the Samus hips going on over here as well. Now I want to have this mirrored shape. There's a ball going on over here, so perhaps perhaps we're going to actually, like you said, this iPod is going to draw the eye. Maybe this is on the side here, and it's in a ball, something like that. Like it's an iPad or an iPod, in a ball kind of thing, like a protective something in there. That might be kind of cool. Right. So this is fine. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. And then this one, actually, it's the same sort of thing. Maybe here we go a little bit more Mega Man style with this gun. A little more anatomy in there. You can see it's just scribbles right now, and a lot of it's just building up on that. A little bit more of a punky haircut. Just getting some circle shapes in there, and a lot of this is just scribbles, guys. And it looks like scribbles, right? Like this doesn't look like it's anything that's beautiful stuff. But what I'm hoping, because what's happening to me right now, but what I'm hoping is getting shown to you as well, is just because these are scribbles, there's energy in here, and there's new ideas that are popping up all the time that are going to help with your design, And you get to choose how far you want to push this stuff. So maybe this chest piece I'm going to pull from the Samus thing here and just sort of give her like a chunky chest piece. Give her the outside underwear over here. Maybe a little bit more feminine, so we'll give her like the stockings, sort of like they kind of come up into the boot. Something like that. And then from here, really, all you would do is, guess what? It's the exact same thing. So we're going to turn off some of these layers here, transform it, and repeat the process. There's two ways you can go from here: is blue line it and redraw it over top of it like I was doing. Or another thing that I actually prefer doing is erasing and drawing on the same layer, right? Because you can get some really cool like effects kind of coming in here. Like check this out. We can get like this piece kind of coming in here maybe. I'm going to make this one a little bit maybe not as slick, but we're gonna start getting some like chunky shapes. Like this is all connected. Like maybe see. So now my mind's starting to play here. This is the beauty of concepting. This stage I would do here. Okay, so let me just run down. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place on here. So the first stage would be getting those black scribbles down that we kind of had like up here. These shapes. Then the next stage is picking like a portion of them. So let's say you did 10. You put 10 on a page of your main character. You're going to pick like 5, and then you're going to blow them up and just do the next stage that we did before this. And then from there, you might still be stuck. You might like all 5, but maybe just pick 3. 2 to 3, and then blow them up and do what I'm doing. Like grab a coffee, grab tea, whatever you want. Turn on some thematic music. Like I'd probably put some Mass Effect music on here, depending on like the vibe that you're going for, right? And just turn that on, and then just lose yourself in there, and you're gonna be surprised at like ideas that pop up just by, like you can see, I'm petting lines. I'm sort of making the lines look better in a way. Like okay, so she's got a mouth here, so let's try to. I don't want to make it pouty, but maybe she's just got like a little bit of some lips here, but she is a little bit more of a mercenary, right? So we can just sort of slick this stuff up. And do you see how I'm changing the lines here? Which is much different than, in my opinion anyway, how we do comic book work, which is very figure based. And we're going to add all that anatomy and stuff even after this if you wanted to refine it. But you'll find that what you're doing is you're just trying to find an idea, right? You're trying to find an idea. Now, I'm just going to stop going there for right now because I want to look back at where you started. I don't want to go too far in that. I'm doing that right now. I'm starting to get a lot more detail in here. And the other thing to remind yourself, and I'm just catching myself right now with this, is you're going to be drawing this all the time. So watch the detail. Don't get stupid like I'm doing. I'm going to pull back now. And I'm actually leaving your design quite a bit, which I don't know is a good thing or a bad thing. So let's just make this a little, maybe we can make this a little bit more practical here. I'm trying to think of something that, drawing over and over again wouldn't be too big of a deal. So we can slick this up and we can still do what you were doing here. Like watch, we can do like this really cool ribbed effect, right? So we got all this kind of coming down her torso, but I can cut in here. Maybe we can do like this little pattern like that in there. That might be kind of cool. Right? And I'm with you. She doesn't need giant breasts. Not that there's anything, that mercenaries wouldn't have them, but they're not in the way in this case, right? Which is great. And what I like about having the visor just being like open like that, let's actually bring even like these little dome shapes over here, and we can put little swatches out there. And I'm going to erase this here, and this is how we can kind of get the headphones kind of coming in. And this, just moving this thing like that, the headphone cord, gives us so much more action in this character. That the thing that I like to think about, especially with characters like this, if you're gonna put it to like a character like Daredevil, Daredevil's very like snap, 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 like reacts to stuff, right? But you have these characters that are very, even Batman's like it. They're very stationary, but they're mobile, right? Like they can snap at a moment's notice, and like Spider-Man can just quickly go out of nowhere. If you give these characters something that even when she stands still, she has this flow to her, like a design. That's why a lot of characters, you'll give them long hair so that the hair can blow in the wind. But if they're stationary and you can have a movement in there, it's really powerful stuff because you get some really cool designs going there. But anyway, I don't want to go too far with this because concepting isn't something that's necessarily very quick. It's just something that you'll build on. And I find it very relaxing, to be honest, just going in there, because all you're doing is you're just building on ideas as you go. So hopefully this helped you out. I know this was all over the place. Let me know, V, if you got anything from this. There's tons of people you can check online for concept art as well. But just to finally address, and I will say this too, whoever would like another critique next, by all means, please put it in the chat in all capitals with a link, and I will do my best to help you out. But to just critique once again your original piece here, the only thing I'm concerned with is, as much as I'm all for diverse body types, she doesn't work like this if she's an agile character. And you can do a simple thing by bringing up the crotch area and just doing that thigh gap that people talk about all the time. Only because what we're doing is in females, right? Like they tend to be lower heavy, where men tend to have the bigger shoulders. So by bringing the legs, like separating the legs from the hips a little bit more, it gives her a little bit more of an agile look, right? And like this is pretty ridiculous that what I've done to her here, but let's bring some more leg back in there. But I'm hoping you can see it. And the only thing too is if I were to make her all black, she just looks like a human, right? She does need just like one other thing. Like this iPad thing is awesome. I think that's very cool. It's very dramatic. But she needs something else that'll make this design pop. It could just be even just ripping off the Samus thing a little bit. Let's go color with this one. As much as I'm not a fan of just ripping off design. Right, but you can see right away just by adding something. Maybe go like this instead of that. Go like with the first Metroid, where it's sort of like these shoulder pads, and it's kind of getting really retro here. But you know that might be okay. It might not be a big deal. And you can also start pulling in some of this sweet green. You know, you could kind of maybe bring that like tech lines kind of coming through there. Personally, I would green out this whole visor myself. It does take her away, but it kind of adds like a little bit of a mystery to her. It depends. You know the character more than I do, so you're going to need to know that sort of stuff. But this lets us do some really cool shines and stuff. And when you do see her face, it's kind of like a reveal. And then when she's ready to kick ass, you know, into attack mode and stuff, you can kind of go in there and, all right, now I can play with this. And maybe even changing up the design. Maybe bring the whole visor down like a triangle. That might be cool too. And I'd probably even just bring this over across like that. Nah, it's getting too busy. One other thing too, I do like the Mega Man style legs you got going on here with this sort of stuff. I guess the only real thing that I have to say that'd be a critique, other than this, is just that it does feel sort of like something that somebody would buy at like a thrift store, you know, where you just get these sort of like uh, rubbery kind of parts to put on somebody. And I know that's not a lot of that's with rendering with the color and stuff like that, but it's like these chunky pieces. Whereas if you look at again at the Metroid design, there's a little bit more intricacies in there. Like instead of these round shapes, I know round is great for like characters that are safe, fun, that sort of stuff. But just by adding just maybe a little bit more danger to her to make her a little bit more slick, right? Like start connecting these pieces down like this. Maybe you can bring this diamond shape that you already got going on, or that I added here to her helmet. Maybe even bring that back down into this stuff, right? So you can kind of have like this pattern that's going on in here that sort of just accentuates some of the stuff that's going on there. But other than that, I mean, this is concept art. Like I said when I started this, right? The more ideas and people you got touching and putting their opinions on the idea, it could go any way. And you got to be careful of that. You got to take what I said and what you're going to find other people say and go with. I always say end up going with your gut. If you feel like one thing is ready to go, just do that. Um, so anyway, I hope I was able to help you a little bit. See, like I'm even just slickening up the legs a little bit, and it's making her look a little bit more like that. Not assassin, but character that's ready to take care of business. You know. But yeah, we got some cool stuff going on here. So anyway, thank you. I hope that did help you out there. So again, if anybody, let me just scroll up here and I'll see if you would like something critiqued. By all means, please post in the chat with a little description of what it was that you needed help with, and I will do my best to do so. Let me just scroll up here and try to find somebody else's. And if I didn't say it, sorry, I forgot. Thank you for sending me that email. I do appreciate that. Okay. Somebody did ask something and I can't. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, yeah. I'm glad that helped you out there. Thank you. I can't find. Somebody asked a question in the beginning here. I'm just trying to find here. It's about tutorials. Okay, here we go. This one's by Peyton. Could you do a tutorial on how to draw clothing on the figure if you have any time? Absolutely. As I understand it, anyway. uh, so before I leave that, uh, O is saying, when you make concepts, how much of them do you show to your clients? So I don't get hired too often to do concept art. I did maybe, I don't know, like almost 10 years ago for superhero style stuff. Um, Mostly because, at least what I found anyway, a lot of video game places and that they just contract their stuff out, or they might have like somebody like me that's working in studio. But depends on the project and the deadline. Usually in the beginning, you don't want to overload your client with information and choices. You want to give them like options, but not just. The idea is to give enough different options that they all don't start looking the same, right? So like what I did with this one here. Oops, let me go down here. These two, they are different. One's got a big gun and stuff, but if I made another character that looked like this one, but was very just different, like she had like another piece over here, maybe something like that. It's so similar that the client would go like, I don't know which one's better. Like they both feel the same. I might like certain things, and that's not good. I think a good recommendation. Check out a channel by Fang Zhu. He's all about the concept art, and he'll tell you a whole bunch. One thing that he recommends, and I follow it pretty much to a T, is if you imagine you got like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper here, and you divide it into thirds. This third here is everything 100% what the client asked for in their spec of whatever it was, right? This middle one here is about 75% of what they asked for, but you're starting to add a little bit of your own flavor or research that you're doing on your own. And then this last one here is like 50%, and I believe you don't go past 50% because then it starts to become not even what the person asked at all. But this is where you might be able to start going into some weirder territory, right? So if in this first one somebody said, I want a dragon in this RPG game, so you might do like 3 to 5 concept sketches of like dragons from Skyrim or dragons in like Disney movies. You know, dragons you would see. 75%. Maybe this would be like kind of going into the realm of like Dragon Ball Z, where there's that giant dragon. It's a little he's normal, right? But there's a little bit of things to him that are a little different. And then you could start playing around with a little bit more stuff. Maybe it's like a forest dragon, right? And it's made of bark and thing. Like now you're getting away from a traditional what people would think of a traditional dragon, right? And this 50% one, this is where I would say you're allowed to just be you 100% if you were in charge of the project and you wanted to really go there. Maybe it's a water dragon made of water and it looks like a horse. Radical stuff, right? But the idea is again like 3 to 5 of these so when you send this to your client, they have the choice of what they like, right? And then you can build on it from there. So, what was the question there again? It was clothing. That's what it was. Okay. So I'll do this one pretty quickly. This one shouldn't take too much time because the type of stuff I'm going to show here, it's pretty traditional. So understanding just some fundamental stuff, I guess, is pretty important here. So if you had a table and cloth going over it, pinch points are basically what I'm trying to show here. So the cloth is folding over a corner, so it's a drape, right? Like it's falling over, but it's being pinched in there as well. So everything sort of like falls from that pinch point. you know. And if you were to have somebody holding, and here's some really, these are supposed to be hands, and somebody's holding up like a cloth, it's the same sort of thing. We're going to draw through it, right? So these shapes are being, it's folded cloth, and on the inside here, we would kind of bring it in like that. Or it could go down here. That might read a little better. And then all those pinch points are going in here, right? So that's that idea there, right? And drapery always flows over something. So if we were to draw, I don't know, let's draw the chest, 3/4 here. And this arm is straight out, and this arm is just relaxed on the side. Okay, so let's make that blue. So what we do is imagine like just a t-shirt. How I do this is I always put like where the neck stuff is myself. I don't know why, it just feels right. And then I'm sort of like just feeling over to like trying to find these pinch points. So shoulders have like, like things bunch up. So I'll put a bunch of scribbles where I'm putting it. And it drapes around this cylinder, right? And again, these go all up into a pinch point. And then it sags down here. These all pinch, right? And then the clothing is going to drape or fall across this figure. It's pretty smooth here. There's nothing pushing it out. If the character had like a belly or breast, right, like this would contour over those kinds of shapes. If it was a belly, it would push the fabric out, and you'd kind of get like these. It's another pinch point in here, right? And since this arm's lifting, it's lifting across like that. So if you can see what I'm trying to do here, and I know a lot of it, there's different fabrics. I'll do a cape in a second. But everything's like a pinch point. Everything's got like it's just clothing. It's fabric. You've got your own shirts. You can pick up a shirt, a sheet, anything. Everything wrinkles and falls into like usually a pinch or it's a fold. A pinch or a fold is really what you're looking for, right? And since this is just being draped across the figure, it's just cloth. Gravity's pulling this stuff down. It'll always be flat unless something else is pulling it. And this thing is happening because it's being lifted. The fabric is lifting, so it's going to bunch up here a little bit and then get pulled because of that, right? So now that I kind of have it all scribbled, I can come in here and just go, okay, well, here's my tight line art. I'm going to just sort of pick the lines that I think demonstrate this the best. And I'll just put like those fabric stitching lines in there as well. Right? So it's coming this way, and it's going to go here. It's going to go again across the shoulder, but it doesn't clump as much anymore because it's just resting, but it's still falling. But again, now we've got a pinch point here, so that means all of the fabric. It's not starting here. It's not doing this. That's not the correct way to think of it. It's the other way. This draped clothing is being pulled into the shoulder, right? Like you could even go as far back as here if you really wanted to get crazy. Everything's being pulled like that into the shoulder because it's being lifted. Okay, so I hope that helps with that. And I'm trying to be pretty quick with this because I know all these topics, as awesome as they are, they can be like 5-hour shows in and of themselves, right? So capes would be the same. I'm just going to put again 2 pinch points, and it would just flop over the shoulder, right? Like they would connect around the neck this way. The side's going to come down and it's going to drape. If you notice, it's exactly the same shape as this. That's all I did. The difference is when there's wind or something pushing it. What I like to do is I do crazy shapes. And I remember I saw this from a Jim Lee video. I believe he did it anyway. But let's say the wind is blowing this way. It's going that way. So I'll start over here like a big, like it's being pulled away because it's being blown away. And I'll just do like some weird shapes like that. As long as those pull points make sense. And what you can do is the exact same thing we did, is just start pulling into the shapes. Like that, right? You can do some really wild stuff with a cape. You can, check this out, you can go like some dramatic shapes like this. Oops. So here's the chest and the head. You know, they're flying. It's a huge cape. But I practice this all the time, and I always like the result. You always, mess around with it yourself. But these little like rivets that you're making, you can actually turn these into folded cloth points. And just by stacking them like this, it's all going again to this point that's pulling it. But you see how quickly I just added layers to this for no real reason. You can also do it with like a spawn kind of cape, where his is more sharp. But the same rule applies as long as it's all being pinched to something. Right? Like just say this is the pinch point here. That's the line we're following right in there. This line's going to go all the way up into the pinch there. This one's going to go up into the pinch. And you can see how quickly it goes in there. Sometimes what artists will do is they'll bring like this triangle and they'll just keep going down like that, and you're just building on it. It takes a little bit of practice to understand like the feel of this. But it's just like, I don't know. I call them like hacks in a way because it doesn't feel like that's how it's taught in a book or anything, but it has a feel to it. And dresses are about the same as well. Just trying to find the like where is it on the body that it's going in there, and just doing your best, and then doing some study. If you notice, the one thing I didn't draw at all was like, let's say you've got like a guy sitting, and this is I think a traditional one that they'll always have. Here's his trousers, and his like leg will go up, and it'll do like this weird clumping shape, right? And his like foot will be here somewhere. And it does like this. This right here is like the fold shape. You can add that in there. And there's so many people that draw clothing differently. Right? So, anyway, I hope that helped you. I know that's kind of like all over the place in that one. How would you do plants? Draw foreshortening. All right, we got lots of good stuff here. Plants. I definitely like to look at reference for plants. But I do have some shorthand ways, like if it's like a flower. I don't even know what kind of flower this is, maybe like a rose or something. But I'm always thinking of like moving like this, okay, in scribble shapes. And the reason for that is, again, it's sort of like what I do with capes. I can sort of just slow it down a little bit, right? Like I'm just gonna go a little organic here, like that, and kind of like layer it, right? So here we go. I'm gonna start adding like these little folds into the petals. And that's it. Maybe add another one in the middle here. And you can see like it doesn't even really look like a flower. But it's enough, I think, to give the illusion that there's something there. It's just shapes, right? Like I'm doing like these weird curls that I'm folding in on each other, and trying my best to like layer it so that these shapes are layering over each other. You can always erase over stuff, and then maybe put some on the side here like that, so it doesn't look like it's so brutal that it's not even legit, right? Like just stuff like that. And that's why I like looking at reference, because a lot of this stuff doesn't, whatever. I don't draw flowers a lot, so definitely playing in there. And then I mean, you can always do like plants are always, these kinds of shape, like these diamond shapes. Some people they'll also put the little spine in there of the plant, and then some people won't, because they know once they do it once, they got to do it for every single plant. But check out a whole bunch of different artists. Check out, like, look at plants. This sort of stuff I haven't studied in as much as like anatomy or superheroes, right? So it's a different style of learning how to draw with these sort of things. But it's definitely something that's very easy to do if you're looking at it. The hard part is looking at something and trying to turn it into, I guess, your style. So the next question there was foreshortening. So foreshortening, as long as you're following this rule, whatever comes closer to you is bigger than that which is fading away from you, which is smaller. So a great way to think of it is if you were to draw an arm. I've done this a bunch of time with you guys, right? So here's the shoulder, here's like the bicep, tricep, there's your elbow, your forearm, into your wrist, into your hand, right? Like this is all great, but you can't necessarily, even though you draw it like this, you have to think of it that these are shapes that are following a perspective. Okay. Now the reason why this is so important is because like when you do this, when you're changing the not the volume, sorry, the angle of these shapes, they still need to follow a perspective. And without that perspective, your understanding of it is lost, right? And by doing that, the next thing you do is like this is just the flat stuff. But when you go and you bring like a hand towards us, there's your hand, and it's going into a wrist, which is going into a forearm muscle, which is going into your bicep, which is going into your shoulder, right? That's fine. It's just shapes stacked on each other. But when you add that perspective grid in there, things start fading pretty quick. And hopefully things start popping out towards you a little bit better, right? And without doing that, you'll never understand like how you can get like a hand or a fist or something, we'll say. Right? You get a fist. But when I start, drawing like this sort of stuff, it doesn't read just because it's shapes on top of each other like this. It's not enough. It's cool, stuff's there, but it's not enough. And just adding shadow is great, but that's why even if you don't render, but having like people do like render lines, and the whole point is to help sell that a fade into space there, right? These aren't just lines that are added in there for no reason. But you can't get to that without drawing cylinder people or understanding how cylinders and shapes work. So definitely fill up sketchbooks of just cylinder people. Right? Here's like a torso into some hips. I've got a bunch of videos you can check out too on my channel that I've drawn this a whole bunch of times, and definitely check that out there too. Okay, so I just want to. We've got about 10 minutes left. I know you guys are posting some links, so I just want to make sure I got here. Let me see if I can get this one to work. I hope I can. So Matthew Hobbs is saying, I struggle with making women look feminine, so could you help me put a good form on here? I hope this works. Because I don't draw really women at all. Okay, so I don't know if this is a Facebook link, but unfortunately it's not working. Is there another link you could send me, Matthew? Okay, thanks. Okay, so while we're waiting for him to get a link that works, hopefully. So pants, I see people talking about. So pants. Once you put the body in there, you got to imagine everybody's got pants, right? So go ahead and look at the pants you're wearing. If you're sitting, look down. See the lines that are coming in there, where things are being stretched and pulled, right? So we'll do the classic sitting pose here. So usually things are held up by a belt. If not, that's fine. But you've got this leg that's breaking this fabric area, right? So you're going to get this twist that's happening in here. And this is just like dramatic, of course. Group of folds in here, but this is how I normally sketch when I'm doing like clothing roughs, right? So we're gonna pick the lines that work for sure, but I just want to make sure that I've got the body in here. Okay, so I'll start just scribbling in here. So I know there's gonna be a bunch of tense points in here for sure, and then the crotch area will be a bunch of folds in here. There's gonna be that fabric line that kind of comes up like that, but some of these lines are gonna start stretching over that knee, right? So once we go in here, and now we can just start picking the lines that we like, right? So let's start on this side. This is where like a lot of the bunching is going to happen. Another good way to think of it is like whenever you got like straight cloth like this, the opposing line's probably getting crumpled and put together here, right? So like this is going to start pushing this way. And you can notice to some people that wear, pants or yourself, uh, it flares back here like that, right? So we can go ahead and do like that weird sort of fold in there. And here, obviously, we don't have to pick all these lines, but we're just putting enough in there to make it feel like there's cloth happening here, right? And I like to do like the fly area, especially on guys or whatever. I bunch it up. That way, when we put the folds in there, it feels like a little bit more natural. It's not like this flat sort of thing in there. And like that. As for somebody who's standing, actually, here, we can just do it on this one. So if this was somebody standing here with some like goofy boots, gravity still works, right? So if you're standing, there's a lot of things being pulled up to the hips. So it's kind of got like this feel here. The groins usually, doesn't matter how big your junk is in there, guys, but it usually bunches up in here in some way. There's like creases in here. And your pants will shoot out that way. So I'm going to go ahead in here and we start, drawing in the stuff. Again, we're going to just make the fly a little bit more jumbled up. Get those pinch points kind of coming up. And you can see like these are looking pretty wrinkled. That's okay. Just an example, right? Like that. And like a very easy thing that makes a lot of sense is next time you're out, just make a mental note to look at people and just see how their cloth, especially pants, how it folds when they walk and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not the best at it. I have shorthand ways of trying to mimic it or sell the illusion. But there's two things you can do if you need it. You can look at yourself in a mirror or hold some pants up or ask somebody around you that's wearing pants to sort of like put your legs in a certain way. Another thing is Google. You can always see people that are wearing pants, right? Or you can find people that aren't looking at pants. So, all right, let's see if we got this one here. This will wrap it up here. This should be the girl, and she's missing an arm and stuff like that. I hear. It's always good. Okay. So hopefully we can work with this here. So. I really like. I don't know if this is blood or if it's. I was gonna say petals, but it kind of looks like blood or something. Some red energy. It looks really cool. So, yeah, look at people's crotches more. That'll help. So some things with feminism, not feminism. What the hell? Making women look more feminine. There's a lot of ways we can go about this. The clear one that we're doing here, and there's nothing wrong with it, is you're giving her a pretty big breast. Only because, if I have to assume, is because you're hiding the rest of the body. Maybe because you're not confident in drawing the rest of it, or I don't know what the actual thought of the image was, right? So I can't really critique that. What I will say is, actually, no, I'll reach it out to you. What are you trying to do with this? What are you trying to accentuate? Are you just trying to have this woman look more feminine in general, or was there like an emotion you're trying to do, or are you just kind of drawing for fun? Not too sure. Okay, that's fair. So what I'll do then is, so there's some, like it's pretty dramatic what we got going on here. You're welcome, Peyton. It's hard to explain. No problem, no problem. It's mostly a concept gone awry. Okay, no, yeah, I think that's how most people draw anyway as well. So I like the idea of it's like it's a girl, and she's kind of draping herself, doing whatever there. So some things to help, like everything you need for her to be feminine is feminine. She's got breasts. I say unfortunately, but I mean a lot of art is like that. She's not wearing much clothes, which is usually an instant thing for ladies to look more feminine because you can see their body, right? It's not covered by armor, and you're not sure if it's a guy or a girl, right? It's an easy way of doing it. But there's little things like personality wise that women tend to do. Obviously, not all women, but little things. And you kind of have it going on right now. You got the shoulders popped up as well. So I just want to show you something here that we could do where you don't have to have the breast out to show the feminine side. The face is fine. There's nothing wrong with the face. I'm just gonna do a quick draw over here. You got the nose, you got the mouth. Because you got like a lot of makeup going on here, which is good too. Got the hair, right? But what we can do is we can actually have so that her shoulders up, and this is where we start draping the clothing across, right? And we could really like watch like. I think the default thing might be to do this, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just got to know what it is that what you're trying to draw with this sort of stuff. And if it's just a cheesecake kind of cute thing, go ahead. If it's just trying to be a little more sultry, yeah, throw the boobs out there for sure. I'm just trying to go. I don't. I feel hesitant saying more tasteful, but just sort of bringing the cloth this way as well. And actually, we can bring up her other shoulder, and it's sort of like a just start getting some cool. You can play a whole story with this cape thing that she's kind of got going on here. Um, but we can really just start playing with a lot of the stuff you have here. You got these horns, and you could actually bring in the hair and make the hair start telling a little bit more of a story, right? So you kind of have like this. I always call it an emo look when they've got like the hair just showing one eye. But you can actually, you've got all this really cool action going around there. You could like really start moving the hair, get that hair showing some of that action as well. I don't know how crazy you want to go, but that can start telling a little bit of a story as well. Maybe you can even have bring a hand out and she's holding this sort of stuff, right? Like these are just very quick ideas for this. Another example might be if you wanted to go like the sultry route. Usually opposing curves really help, right? So I'm just going to do a pretty simple draw over here. So we're going to work this one to have like her kind of coming out of the cloth a little bit here. So maybe we can have her hands going this way. And this is going to be very rough stuff here, obviously. Right, so the opposite curves here is what I'm talking about. You know, give her some pretty big boobs in here, whatever. But this is where it can kind of get a little sultry, I guess, where you can start shooting the hips out a little bit more. Starting to feel a little bit more like a guy magazine sort of pose, or like a swimsuit shot. But just to keep a little tasteful here, we want to show this because that's the feminine part, or the hips, right? You can get that pinch point kind of coming this way, but we could also have the clothing draping across like this as well, so she doesn't necessarily need the bra. It's kind of hidden underneath. All right, you can kind of do this sort of stuff. And again, the hair would still work for sure. With the horns. And one of the things too, I just wanted to point like that out as well. Let's get some shadows going in here so we can see that wrapping kind of going on here, which will always help. So there's that, and then the last thing is with what you already have, and what you already have is a very good image, and what we would do is just draw the attention to what we want. And right now what we have is the breasts and the face. I can't not look at it just because of everything's so dark, and then those are like it's white on black here, right? So you're drawing the eye where you want. But you have some cool framing going around the head. I would argue that even having just like maybe not the breast itself, but above the breast, like right here, like where they meet, being the focal point with her face, you know, and that can be done just by having like composition, right? So we can bring the rest of her. Actually, I'm gonna do this instead of drawing in black here. I'm just gonna draw over what you had. Probably make it a little easier here, right? So we're going to extend the cape this way. And I'm just trying to think again with what you had and try to tell a story. I know this is concept and it was just sort of like, probably having fun in your sketchbook doing whatever. That's fine. But for future reference anyway. But we've got like this really cool, like these ribbon sort of things. But we can really play with like where we want the person's eye to look, right? So they could all be pointing at her face. Because that's where we want the people to look. And I noticed you did a little bit of digital coloring in here, I think is what it is. So I'm just going ahead and what we're going to do is just darken everything except where we want them to look. And we want them to look at her face. Alright, dark it all out here. I'm going to grab a little bit of light and possibly, like I said, that one area with her breast there. It's a little harder to do with this stuff here. But yeah, I already know I'm starting to noodle with this stuff. But yeah, you could totally noodle a whole bunch of stuff here with that. But anyway, I'm just trying to. What's that? You think your focal? I think yeah, your focal point was, in my opinion anyway, a little. It's a little busy just because of what we got going on here. Like watch, check this out. Let's make a new layer, and I'm just going to use because this is a simple illustration that you got here. Not that it's, I mean, simple in a negative way. It's just a character, right, with some stuff happening. We're going to make a gradient, but we're going to use hey Jojo. We're going to go with like a dark gray, and then I'm going to use a lighter gray. Oops. I'm still not quite sure how we use Manga Studio with this stuff. And with this gradient is where I'm going to have my focus, okay? So let's put this on, I think it's multiply. Yeah, sure, we'll try that. Right? And this is why I recommend using gray, because you get a little bit more range with stuff here, right? So when it's gray, if you notice, all I'm doing now is I'm just using this gray to grab our focus, and this is what's really cool because this shows us right away what we need to look at. And because it is so stark, it is kind of gray like this, right? It is harder to play with a little bit of range, but watch, like if we want her breast to show up a little bit more, like you see how just by adding that little highlight there, your eye is drawn to that area, maybe more so than it naturally would be, and that's fine. That's what we want. We need to find that light source that we want, right? Let's go a little whiter, just because I want people to really look at the eye here. Right, like that's where we want people to really spend most of their time on this piece. And it's just taking a little bit of time. If you're going to go through the trouble, like you said, of coloring it, just take that time to really figure out what it is that what you would like to do with it. I know it's just coloring a sketch. I've been there, man. I've been trying to digital sketch for a very long time with lots of stuff as I grew up, and the more I would do it, the more I would just hear other people talk. And the number one thing I always hear is the why, right? And it's very evident in comic books for sure. But it's why are you asking anybody to look at this? And that it's a very very important question. And then once you get their attention, what do you want them to look at, right? And that's arguably even a more important question. Why should they even look somewhere? So anyway, I'm just going to go back to what we were kind of doing here with this darkness, right? So what's really cool is you can get like this, maybe even the folds kind of pointing up this way. So it's turning into like a triangular sort of, what's what I'm looking for? Let's say focal point, but composition. That's it. Right? And now we can really just really play with this really slick red you kind of have going on here. So maybe not go so high so we can keep the focus all pointing back at her. Yeah, so this is, again, I know I know it's very drastic from what you had. Um, Correction layer, we can go to, what is it, levels? Yeah. Correction layer level. What in the hell? Anyway, so I'm not going to fart around with it. So I hope that helped you out. And it was just, again, figuring out what we want them to look at, and what is it about? What's the point of what we're doing here, right? And that's all it is. So anyway, I want to say thank you to everybody that was here today and for watching this on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a blast. I honestly really do look forward to these episodes every month. It's a change of pace, and like. For what, if I was able to help anybody, obviously that's awesome, and I'm very glad to do so. But what I get a kick out of it, and this is more the selfish way, is I was able to jump from what we just did right now to drapery to foreshortening to concept design, all within an hour, and it just sort of stretches my range a little bit, where like normally I wouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. So thank you for allowing me to be able to do that. And if you are watching this on YouTube, if you would like a critique done for next month's show, and this show is the first Wednesday of every month, this critique show, by all means, please head on over to my site, jonathanrector.com. It's plastered all over the screen. You can see it. Head on over there. Find a way to contact me. Just send me a little message, and I will definitely do my best to get it on the show for next week. And if you're new to the show and the channel, this live streaming is every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you came in a little bit late today, cool. That's all right. Just look at the clock and subtract an hour and 10 minutes. And that's when we start every Wednesday. Please subscribe here on YouTube. You guys will get notified when we do the casual streams and all that good stuff. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you once again to everybody that's been able to support me on Patreon. Everybody that was able to participate tonight, you guys are the best. And for those of you leaving comments and sharing this around, really, really, honestly, thank you so much. You guys help get this stuff shown to other people. And I'm just really super excited that you guys are interested in even asking me to offer any kind of help and are able to get that. I honestly, bottom of my heart, thank you so much. So anyway, you guys, keep reading comics, keep making comics. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Have a good night. Bye-bye.